Day. But I'm adding that Steve from Merrimack sighting as being recognized.
Okay,
outside.
You're counting that? Even though you asked for him to show up and recognize you?
Yes. I'm still counting that. So 2024 has been a good year for this. Good year
just
for
beware.
this.
If you do recognize Tom in public, he will demand to take a picture with you.
Yes.
Which is atypical
if you do
for
see
quote,
me,
unquote, famous people.
if you do see me out and about, I will own you for about 15 minutes.
The only so-called celebrity who demands people admit that they saw him.
Yes. I stalk them. That's how that works. But you know what? Something else occurred to me. I was just down at the store, Alice. And I bought a purchase item that was $9.
Okay.
I happen to have cash from this weekend. And so I thought to myself, you know what? I'll get the kids one each $1 scratch ticket with the $2 left. Or it was $8, the thing.
Okay.
And so I asked, I said, can I get two $1 scratch tickets? And he said, we don't have them. They took them away from me. And I said, what do you mean they took them away from you? And he said they can't move them. They can't move the $1 and $2 scratch tickets, so the state just took them away. And he said it's happening all over the place.
Huh.
Nobody's doing low winning.
They're all buying the big, like, $15 and $20 ones.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, he says that he'll go through like $20, $50 ones, $50 per ticket before he goes through one thing of the $1. That is crazy to me because where is everybody getting this money to be broke? So like to play in scratch tickets, or is the scratch ticket much like FanDuel where everybody else in the world seems to just clean up every week? Is there a way to win on those? I don't get what's happening.
Well, on scratch tickets, no, they're. Like, the house always wins on scratch tickets. On average, you will always lose money on scratch tickets. Even though, I mean, like, I've known people who swear they make money on them. And, like, I knew people, especially when I worked in retail, it's always people without a lot of money. But they're, like, I knew somebody who won a trip to Vegas on a scratch ticket.
Really?
Yeah, where they could go then spend more money at gambling.
Tough stuff.
But, yeah, like, I mean, people obviously do win them, but it typically it's like not particularly life-changing.
No,
but I don't think it's really healthy for society that we continue to expand gambling options for people.
I was famously burned by scratch ticket sales in 1989 when I worked at White Hand Pantry. And back then we used to get paid in cash. We got a pay stub and then got paid in cash in an envelope. And me and the girl who was working at the time, we decided to spend some of our money, some of our cash on scratch tickets that were right there. We were bored, whatever.
Yeah.
And we ended up both spending our entire check on scratch tickets. Yeah. She won $400 and I spent my check before I left the building. No money, no pay that week, which is a horrific feeling. Yeah. So that's why.
I hate that too. It reminds me too, even like when I worked at Macy's, one of the things that made me really uncomfortable was you could only get your employees' discount on a Macy's credit card. So lots of people owed Macy's money and paid them interest every month.
Ooh, that's like a company store.
Yeah, it's pretty. It was not like something I loved.
No,
it was. No. It seemed like not a positive thing.
All right. And that brings me, Alice, to having disposable income or not having disposable income, because I have a question for you. Are you currently employed?
Yes.
Are you employed at Domino's Pizza?
No, incorrect. I'm not employed at Domino's Pizza.
Okay, but
I wouldn't be ashamed of it if I were. I would tell you.
But you do have a job.
I do have a job.
So last week we talked about my friend and classmate, Winchester High's, Kirk Minahan, who's got a fledgling podcast himself. Not quite as big as the Burn Barrel, but getting there. And we talked about it because he was browbeating a friend of his, because a friend of his hadn't worked in almost more than a year and also hadn't saved up any money for college. So about the browbeating for not working for a year, we both agreed that that's worth a browbeating, and it would not be acceptable if it happened in this. I would not be able to get away with it.
Oh, if you were unemployed for over a year, and especially if you were unemployed for over a year from your radio job while you waited for another radio station to appear and pay you money, and meanwhile poo-pooed even the concept of being considered to work at Barstool Sports because that was beneath you, I would stab you in your sleep. You wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, forget being married. We just
No. If I
like,
couldn't get
you'd be dead. I would kill you.
Right. And if I couldn't get a media job immediately, then after unemployment or sometime in the weeks following my dismissal, I would be an associate at TCBY or wherever,
yeah,
Radio
or
Shack.
Domino's or whatever,
Exactly.
or whatever it is. And
Right.
like, I can specifically say that that's true about us and our family because we've actually lived through exactly this, because you happen to have had a bunch of media jobs, in particular during COVID, when you lost a ton of your income and were eventually you parted ways with your company by mutual agreement, but then you were not making a salary at all at that time, and you did get unemployment and other stuff, and this was during COVID, but like, we had to make choices because we had just been forced by the state to take on $150,000 in debt. The state took us to court and made us do construction on our house, debt that we couldn't afford to take on. And we absolutely, like, both would sell a kidney before we, just sat there unemployed for a year, like, waiting to see what would happen. And I'm hugely proud of that fact. I'm proud that I went and during the pandemic worked overnights at Home Depot. I'm proud that I worked weekends making pizza at a brewery. I'm proud that I freaking donate plasma twice a week for extra money. Like, I would do anything. And like, fortunately, we're very fortunate, actually. We, I looked it up today. We actually make almost exactly, like, to the nearest $1,000, the median income in the town that we live in. So we're not by any means like struggling.
There is income coming into the house.
Yeah.
Household, right.
Yeah. We're not struggling.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of income going out of the house.
We're not struggling. And we're very fortunate to not be struggling because we were not that long ago. And we worked really, really hard to not be. And, I've been very fortunate, but I'm proud of the fact that I built up a career to like a respectable adult job too in a matter of a couple of years to make sure that we could provide for our children and keep our house and all the other things to make sure that we could. Like, it's, not as nice a house as some of the houses in Lexington, probably. There's construction projects that we put off that we can't do right away because we can't afford to do them right now. And that's like, I'm not ashamed of that because I'm not ashamed of like not being the richest person. Like, I just am not.
Absolutely.
I'm proud of the fact that I've worked really hard and overcome stuff.
Hold on.
You're independently wealthy and you are going.
This is, I didn't mean to play this. But anyway, the point is that when you went and defended, in other words, said that saving for college if you're not super rich is foolish, and you went on to say exactly like that was, why that was.
Yeah, but I said specifically what I said was that Kirk was wrong on saving for college, but correct on MUT, is what I said.
Well, right, exactly.
Right,
and the saving for college part was because
it's kind of a side note, but it's a myth that just won't die that you should save for college. But if you actually, you're penalized by college financial aid scoring if you have assets in your kid's name rather than your own name. And I encourage everybody, if your kid is a kid who belongs in college, you should probably see a financial advisor who specifically deals with that, because there are very specific things about it and who can tell you in your own financial situation how you should arrange your assets to get the best financial aid, because these big schools do give you a ton of grant money. And so and these people don't pay me, but I saw them and they were really great. Is College Funding Advisors in Bedford. So like, don't take my word for it or Kirk's word for it or anybody's word for it. But if you're interested in the ins and outs of saving for college, go see somebody who does that, because they can be really good and really helpful. But yeah, I mean, specifically what I said was wrong about saving for college, correct about MUT, because I think that it is shameful what he's doing right now.
Right, agreed. And so then Kirk took that personal and went on a tirade, Allison. There's some finer points to what he said, I believe, that where clarification is required. So let's play a little bit of this. This is if you Google Kirk Minihane, Minihane, and Barstool Sports, you'll see links to this podcast out there, which has gotten a lot of publicity, or at least 40% of their audience, I believe, through the Burn Barrel. Here we go.
I have the clip that
You're independently wealthy, and you are going.
Oh, hold on. By the way, the two of them have had nine kids. Their house is filth. It's true, right? There's holes in the house. There's mold they talked about. At one point, Shavik was wandering around. And
okay, as far as the house being filth, there is filth in the house in places. Now, we don't believe there's mold. There's not mold, but there's disrepair in different parts of the house. Remember, this is a house from 1726, so some areas have been consumed by nature. In some areas, look pretty good. In some, and I just complimented our daughter, the upstairs bathroom. If you're the local police or fire fighters and you need to get into the house, please get in through the second floor bathroom. Most of the time. So yes, but it is actually a pretty big house. It's bigger than the one I grew up in Winchester, which was not a small house. It was a 3-bedroom, and it's a pretty house. And so I'm going to defend the house and just say this house, I apologize to the house. Your next owners will be better at this, I assume. And your previous ones were better at this, I assume, although they screwed us. But yes, this is a handsome looking little place, I believe, in my opinion. And there's just not enough of us. So we don't have mold. It was raining in the kitchen, so it's understandable that he might think that. But that is one affliction that it does not have. It had lead.
Which is also another affliction that it no longer has.
Right.
$150,000 later.
Right.
Which that's fine. But, well, let's listen to what he says first.
it's true, right? There's holes in the house. There's mold they talked about. At one point, Shavik was wandering around, and they were going to get divorced. And then
that is absolutely true. I don't know that necessarily pertains to the subject matter, but yes, we were in it almost 2 years ago.
I think that it's.
I was wandering
true.
around.
I think that it's true that, like, we were a few years ago in a tougher financial situation and tougher personal situations than we are now. But we both worked really hard to not be there, and like I think that that's something positive. Actually,
I think it's also fairly common, and I think the difference about walking around was that I was walking around and then talking about it, and so usually you don't. It was my first time being in that mental space, so I didn't do everything right. And I think if anything, those guys benefited from it, and because it was subject matter for people. For me, it was a very dark time that I don't like. I'm not embarrassed about it whatsoever, because compared to the time being in the moment, nothing was as bad as being in that moment, being me in that moment. But let's keep on going here.
And she had another kid.
Yep.
Yes, that is true. We have another kid who I quite like, actually. His name is Peter Rabbit.
I like all of our kids. I think they're great. I'm not upset that I have 5 kids at all. I'm actually thrilled about that.
Yeah, his name is Peter Rabbit. He's a good guy. Yeah, there's a lot of kids. There's a lot of young life in this house, with the exception of me.
She's like 9 kids. Like, don't.
There is five kids.
Yeah, although I'd have 9 if you would let me.
I know, you're a sick bastard.
I like them, like I said.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can tell you one thing, that I do love the energy of the young house, with all these little people running around in the mayhem. And even though I'm 75 and all that stuff, but like, who cares? It's like it's great. All these personalities developing, and different issues come up, and they've all managed to be, for the most part, for the most time, when they want to be very decent human beings. Then the youngest one, what did he say? He said he got erased by the new one.
He's been replaced.
He's been replaced by Peter Rabbit with a new one. Yeah, so I am for it. I was not in a big family growing up.
But I do think there's this attitude amongst a lot of people on the left that, like, you should have your kids taken away if you have too many kids, quote unquote, and you don't live like the rich people do enough. It's like the Paris Hilton "Stop Being Poor" t-shirt, right? There was debate on the internet. This was like maybe a few weeks or a month ago or so, and it was showing this family that has, I think it was like 6 or 8 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment, and their life looks extremely freaking chaotic. It's like not what most people would choose who live in Lexington, right? Like, there were a ton of people in the comments saying, this is wrong, this is irresponsible, they should have their kids taken away, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the truth is that their standard of living is way higher than for 99% of humanity, for 99% of human history. And it's still better than a lot of people living in other places in the world today. And the idea that you're going to take away people's kids because we've invented a totally new standard that you're like a bad person if you're not rich enough is like, it's a dangerous idea. And it's a reason that we've scared young people out of having kids in a lot of cases. Like, I think this is a big part of when people like JD Vance are talking about the looming crisis, and Elon Musk, by the way, who's a big pronatalist, that like we're making choices culturally as a society. It's not even so much financial. It's not that people can't afford to raise kids. People today are richer than they ever were. And that's why I say, like, I'm not being ungrateful or saying that we're unfortunate, because we're definitely not. And we've made a decision as a society that the standard of living that you have to have if you have kids is so high that nobody can meet it. Like, young people are saying they can't afford to have kids when they're way richer than people were in like the 50s, for example, that people hearken back to as some time of plenty when you could maintain a house on one salary. And the truth is that was not, people were not living lifestyles like people have now that back then.
Well, not only that, but back then, I remember growing up and only ever getting hand-me-downs from my boy cousins once, my brother and I. I remember because they were Star Trek shirts from the original when that was out. So, and like my mother, when we grew up in Winchester, she would never take secondhand clothes. Nobody, they would never have. We used to go on these monster shopping trips to Jordan Marsh and spend hundreds of dollars on my dad's credit card for back to school stuff, etc. Never. Now, almost everybody I think we know pretty much in this town, which is a town with a lot of big houses, does the secondhand thing. People are more frugal now than ever, especially with those things, especially since, among other things, that like if you've got a kid who's learning a sport, then that's a whole subscription full of invoices that you're opting into, you know, because you have to, etc. But yeah, no, there are in a lot of ways it's funny. It seems like we're richer and poorer.
Yeah, it's true, because we're making different choices.
Well, right.
Because we're buying different things with our being rich.
Exactly.
People did not used to sign their kids up for multi-$1,000 sports teams every year. That was not a thing.
Well, not everybody had a 110,000 SUV either. I mean, almost everybody in this town has a big honking, freaking expensive as hell SUV.
Right. And so we're making, I mean, people obviously didn't have cell phones, didn't have Netflix packages, didn't have a bunch of computers and iPads and stuff like people have now. So we're obviously incredibly well off comparatively. But this idea that you have to be wealthy to have kids and you're a bad person is, I think it's a very wrong-headed idea, and I think it's making society worse. And it comes from the same place as people who like report your kid for being in the yard and too close to the road and call the police on you, right? Like you should have your kids taken away because you're not taking care of them up to this standard that I have in my head of what I think family life should look like. And it's coming from a place often from people who don't have their own kids, or who have a very limited view of what having kids or a big family is like.
1 second.
But it's actually like the low fertility rates, and I know some people like don't think this. Some people are still stuck in this old paradigm that overpopulation is a bad thing, but we're headed for the world having a declining population, and this is a scenario that has never happened in human history. The only thing comparable could maybe be like the Black Death in Europe. The idea that you have a population that's declining in size and where you're below replacement rate for society is like, we just have no precedent for it in human history, and it's possibly an incredibly bleak future. It's really like not a good thing. And most people who are worried about the future of humanity in any kind of way, like Elon Musk is one, are very, very concerned about the fact that we are, as a society, so discouraging of having children.
It is very interesting. It is very interesting. And I mean, people are delaying having kids, certainly because of climate. And if right there, that's it, then you're lost. It's over. It's over. People like Kirk had to go through a lot in a very tough journey to have their first daughter, welcomed into their house. It takes a lot. And it's just, there are people who sometimes I think wait too late, and you hate to see it when they miss it. But, I don't know. Two kids was the norm when I was a kid too in Winchester. Basically, although our next door neighbor had 4, and some other people had more, but I don't know. Here's my feeling about it, and this is my when you have your parents die, both my parents were dead by the time I was 30. And the great thing, and this might seem bizarre unless you're what this is like. At the end of the days of a parent, ending in horrific, hellacious situations in hospital beds and in the emergency room and all this stuff, those are terrible and forever and just sad, and you lose a part of yourself. When you lose a parent, you lose a piece of yourself. That person and all your joined memories are extinguished. Gone. And it feels like an amputation, especially when you didn't expect to be losing your parents when you're in your 30s, whatever. And so, to some degree, having kids, one, it creates more chaos in a hospital situation, but it's good chaos. And it's, instead of more stuff being gone and little solar systems being gone, more are being created. And you're living vicariously through them and your own life, and it's like expands things. It becomes very obvious very quickly, at least to me, that, oh, I see, that's my purpose, and really, like, always will have been my purpose.
Well, right, and I think it's interesting, like, you bring up parents and family, because obviously one thing that we've done a bunch of is researching your genealogy. And
not because we're vain, but because there's a book.
And the Shattuck history and stuff. And
there's a book that somebody else wrote.
But you think about the struggles that those people had and how many of them were killed by Indians and like crushed by a wagon wheel and died in childbirth and this and that, and all the like struggle and heartache and loss and hard work for hundreds of years. And for it to like come to an end because you wanted more time to binge Netflix and like you didn't want to, be bothered with it because you had more fun stuff to do with your time.
Yes.
Is like kind of crazy to me. Like, totally. It's a weird thing. And just like, well, I guess all the work my ancestors did was just for nothing. Like,
the state should take their kids away.
Now, if we were more on the radar, there's a chance that if we were getting normal visits, if we were intaked into the state bureaucracy, that could be troublesome. I mean, there's not, fentanyl in the house, and it's a fairly normal setup we've got going on here. But there's a lot of 5-kid chaos happening, and I shouldn't say that. I don't think the state would take the kids away. They're all fed. They're all getting educated. They can all read. A couple of them are maybe intelligent. There's no easily noticeable.
No, but I think that suggesting to a large audience that somebody's kid should be taken away is not a particularly responsible thing to do. And I think that, because that's a reality. Like, there was just a mom, I forgot what state she was in, somewhere in the South, in a small town, like smaller than this town that we live in, and she let her 10-year-old son walk somewhere. And
oh no!
And the police got called, and they investigated her. And even though nothing was wrong, they decided that she needed to sign a safety plan that she would pledge to always have a tracking app on his phone, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you can really, really screw with people's lives that way. So, I mean, like, because the state is a really terrible people.
That said, in this situation, my classmate Alice is having fun with the topic. He's not actually suggesting.
I know, but his audience may not all realize that.
Oh, I see. It may
make
try
a report.
to make the. Oh, I see. Yeah, don't do that, please.
I'm gonna listen to these two.
Yes.
You know, Susan Smith and her fatso husband. Like,
the kids are in no danger.
And the good
I can
thing
promise that.
Is that while you're likened to a murderer of a handful of children, I'm merely fat, so I haven't killed anybody.
Oh, what am I doing? They don't understand because they're the exact same way. I guarantee you they take money from the state.
So address they're the exact same way as Mutt's.
Well, we kind of already did. I mean, like, in a way, we're the opposite, because when you lost income due to the pandemic and working in a terrible, dying industry where everyone's getting laid off.
Before I moved to talk radio.
The exciting up-and-coming industry of talk radio. I went out and worked. I worked overnights so that our shifts wouldn't overlap, so that we could both have income without getting childcare. And I worked weekends and I worked nights in the restaurant industry. And I busted my butt to be able to make sure that we could continue to pay our mortgage and pay our bills and everything and get where we are.
Right.
So I don't actually, and by the way, the apparently that we qualify for without applying for it, and we don't know why we got it. Some are EBT card notwithstanding, that I didn't believe in and told Tom I was sure must be a scam for months and months and months. So in that sense, I guess it's true that we get state benefits. I'm pretty sure we shouldn't.
Is there a mouse in your pocket?
You got state benefits.
I get state benefits, and I have spent those. And if I get them again,
one of us may be a welfare queen.
Alice was yes. It is
not me.
Alice was not pleased with the EBT.
No, I was embarrassed by it because I'm specifically not like that. You and Mutt have that in common, but
I made a "Who's Down with EBT" song about it.
And I was mad at you.
She was mad at me a lot. She was disgusted by the whole thing. I want to be a welfare. Give me queen. Give me girl. Absolutely. Keep sending it. Anything they send me, I will absolutely spend. I will feel.
But I'm not. I've actually gone out and built a real career that I'm proud of.
What is that supposed to mean? I'm famous, Alice.
So
Were you recognized at the Old Oak, the new Old Oak in Amesbury?
No, but I would have been if I
have.
had sent out a bat signal to our listeners to come there and recognize me.
That is irrelevant to the conversation.
Guaranteed. He's an AM radio host, so what does she do?
Yes. Let me tell you something about how much I get paid from Odyssey. For a midday show to be paid, let's say I was doing 4 hours, now 3, to reach that many people, it's astounding at how little the number is. But for Intercom/Odyssey, it's astounding at how big the number is. It really is. It really is. Considering I'm astounded. I've heard him guess about what it was before, and it's always been a healthy twice as much as that. Now, still, it does not give me enough income at the end of the day to buy a cool SUV. But it could be worse. Believe me. I just worked. I lucked out in the market specifically. I lucked out in the market because it's an old CBS station. They're very family oriented. They're very good people. They actually care about radio and the listeners, yada yada yada. But otherwise, he'd be right on.
I think she is the breadwinner in the family, but I don't know what she does.
How does Dave know that?
By breadwinner, make more than the radio. I mean, what does she do?
By the way, every spouse in a relationship with a radio guy is the breadwinner. That is, and that didn't begin with me. That has been since I got into radio. It's always been, with the exception of the biggies like Howie. Well, which actually maybe Kathy is now.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Was she fucking work at Domino's? Like, it doesn't. I have no time for it. No time.
He has no time for it. By the way, no time. He then goes to ask for the audio of the rant. So, anyway, he is my friend, Kirk. He is.
I don't know that he would say that.
Yes, he is. Yes, he would say that. He says privately to me. But I think it gave us an opportunity, since this is part of a controversy. You can stop listening now, Dave. The part's over. You're clear from here on. But what I'm saying is that like those are things that aren't just us. When people talk about like savings and the way you budget and what's responsible and what's irresponsible, etc. And what's déclassé? I mean, this stuff is all around everybody right now. It's all around everybody. It really is. And as a matter of fact, I want to give a shout out to the new old oak, because in any town this would be considered to be a total dive bar. But in déclassé, you would not find most moms of this town or Newburyport hanging out there. It's not got the look and feel where somebody from Winchester or Lexington or Newburyport or Cambridge would ever want to be around. But the people in there were great working class, mostly, I would say, real hardworking people with no airs, and would probably have no problem with people with multiple kids. In fact, be all for it. In fact, I think they're also the kind of people that don't hate their country. If I was just looking at cursory,
do you think it averaged a win for Trump in the New Old Oak?
I would say yes, about 98%. Absolutely. Even there was even one of the women who were the bar where this place was slammed because they were only open for a few hours. It's the thing they do every Thanksgiving. Even the woman who was snapping at me, I still liked. So it was a good place.
Why was the woman snapping at you?
She was angry at us for ordering. She was just not, I don't know. She's not, I don't know. Doesn't matter. But there you go, Alice. She probably recognized me, in fact.
Probably
what it was.
That's true.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to something I just stumbled into. And this is, I used to be able to, 10 years ago, you'd be able to go to YouTube, put in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and you'd be able to get the entire show, the entire original 1964 special. Mm-hmm. Those days are over. It's copyrighted. It's been put. I mean, it makes sense now, right? Because all the licensing, the merchandising that's going on, totally makes sense. But I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. All you can find is these rip-offs, whatever, of it. But I was feeding my son, Peter Rabbit, in his little high chair in front of the TV and going back and forth from the kitchen to him, giving him leftover Thanksgiving turkey, etc. And I'm there feeding him, and I hear somebody doing a YouTube show about the making of the movie. And, how they came up with the score, how the animation worked, and this and that. That's kind of interesting. And then this part caught me and stopped me in my tracks. This is really incredible. And I couldn't believe it, that this was like really happening, that this is a thing, but it's a thing. Listen to this. This is the narrator of the thing. I think his name is Scott Say or something.
Have I become too sensitive to the antiquated themes, chauvinistic dialogue, and dismissive actions of the characters? The answer is yes.
See the music?
Yes, I have.
It's showing, by the way, all the scenes with the snowman, with Hermie,
with a toy gun.
Exactly.
My latest rewatch of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, it quickly became apparent that times have changed since Muller penned this classic yet problematic holiday special.
Problematic in that what? That a abominable snowman was detoothed? Problematic in that what? We need a story arc, right? There needs to be.
They were mean to Hermie and Rudolph on screen.
Well, that's the story, right? Isn't the story
Yeah, they
overcoming
can't
them
depict
being
that.
mean and changing hearts and minds with historic bravery from little organisms?
Yeah, by the way, Disney's getting rid of the Indians from the Peter Pan rides
Oh,
because they're
real?
insensitive too.
Oh, good.
Throughout the film, Rudolph's father, Donner, is emotionally and physically abusive.
This is the Rudolph special in 1964 was not a documentary, right?
It's also not pro the mean dad.
No, he's not the star of the
If
story.
anything, this is like a liberal boomer movie about how, you know, mean their parents' generation was.
Right.
He shames the tiny reindeer for his bright red nose, forcing him to wear a covering
the
to
bad
mask
guy
his
for that.
natural.
There's a podcast. I forgot. No, it's an Instagram. Kyle, forgot his name. He does a great Bill Maher. Kyle Monaghan. Kyle Hennigan. It's a Irish last name. Anyway, he does this show.
Dunnigan?
Kyle Dunnigan. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He does this great Instagram show called like Two Pussies, and it's two progressive gentlemen who have fine problem. And seriously, theirs is just satirical, but this is that. This guy's really looking at the misogyny happening. The fact that Donner is abusive to his tiny young son because of his nose.
Bright red nose, forcing him to wear a covering to mask his natural physiology. Meanwhile, Santa could care less about Rudolph's safety and is hyper-fixated on executing his Christmas plans like clockwork.
Republicans wouldn't let them unionize. They didn't get breaks. No, just hurry, 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 hurry. Uses his mean, manager in there. Yo, hurry me. Can you imagine watching this show through this lens and being like, I don't feel comfortable with this?
I believe that bullying extends beyond Rudolph's reindeer peers, as it lurks within the film's dominant male figures' harsh words and contemptuous actions. These aspects of the film were difficult to ignore, as Hollywood strives to course correct decades of ableism and sexism on screen.
So, are you effing kidding me? First of all, the Rudolph movie is a work of fiction. Okay, it's got what do you need in a story? Who's the person who's an antagonist and a protagonist? You need that, right? Mm-hmm. And the antagonist does all sorts of dickhead things, right? To the protagonist,
Right.
And the protagonist.
Most stories would be pretty boring if nobody ever did anything bad in the story.
No, right. It would,
Like,
right.
it would make
It would be
most works of fiction very useless if
Yes.
if nobody ever did anything objectionable in the whole story.
Yes, if there's no bullying or ridicule of Rudolph and everybody accepts his nose immediately, and in Hermie, the closeted elf is treated well, and as a matter of fact, they send him to dental school, and they come up in Act 1 with that they can use the nose for the storm. Then this is not a compelling piece of work, piece of creative output. What do they expect? If the Abominable Snowman is pleasant from moment one, then he never has to fall off the cliff with Yukon Cornelius. And if Yukon just in Act 2 hits gold, and he can just lick it with his little tongue and realize that he's got gold, then he can go home. In the Island of Misfits toys, if they all get
Accepted and loved by children
Yes.
and never form the island, then there's nowhere for anybody to visit, and there's no point to any of it.
Yes. I mean, you can just, if you want to, you can start It's a Wonderful Life at Merry Christmas, Old Savings and Loan. You can start it there.
It's a less interesting movie, though.
Yes. But it's less upsetting because Potter was mean, and the Italian guy who ran the bar, punched Jimmy Stewart, and there's all sorts of bad and upsetting things happened.
That is like one of the worst, most upsetting movie sequences of all time, when the hapless uncle loses the money and Mr. Potter has it and everything's going wrong, and you're just like, no.
In my version,
like really painful.
in my version, did you ever see the SNL, by the way, deleted scene from It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah.
In my version of the movie could end happily with Jimmy Stewart taking his uncle behind the house and shooting him in the head. for losing the money, and just make the movie 12 minutes long, and that's it. I will be satisfied with that idiot who, for some reason, has a crow. Freaking, oh, God. Anyway.
So, yeah, no, I mean, that's obviously absurd. Speaking of...
By the way, let the record show, because I dared to, yesterday, post on TikTok the same Michigan Ohio State brawl that everybody else posted, and I was given a warning, and I lost the appeal
for violence.
Yes, for violence. The one that's been posted 28 million times. So I'm so freaking sick of TikTok. So tonight I'm going to post this Rudolph scene, and we'll see. I guarantee you, if
the word bullying might set off the censors because it's using AI.
If I say woke YouTuber pans Rudolph, it probably is looking at the word woke. So do I have to asterisk everything? Like,
I don't know.
It's such a jerk. I thought these Chinese communists want me to work with them. I will give you access to anything sensitive I have. CCCP, let's go.
Morgan says in the chat, this is why Trump won. Everyone is sick of this crap. The left are a bunch of dorks, which is true. And I
just watch Rudolph. Okay.
I see people saying like how Blue Sky's really taking off and they've really expanded their users and it seems like they're really reaching a critical mass where you can get news there now. But the problem is it's like only their own echo chamber on Blue Sky. And Twitter, I know there are conservatives on Twitter and they love saying how Elon took over. It's this horrible dystopian right-wing place. But Twitter's always been more left-wing in general than right-wing. There's more liberals on there than right-wing people. And they just can't tolerate the fact that they don't run the show and can't report every mean thing anymore. So they find that toxic and horrible. So now they're all over there together on Blue Sky, blowing up the reporting system. I forget who it was. One of the like historian guys who used to be on Twitter was over there and he had to apologize for posting some historical thing.
That's great.
It was...
Is that Bechless? No.
No, it wasn't Bechless. It was one of the other ones. It was almost in my head. What was it? His name's gone from my mind. It'll come back to me. But had to like apologize for posting something because it was like showing some historical circumstance and it was upsetting to people and he had to take it down. It was getting reported. So good luck, because now it's all the people who think Rudolph is too scary and has too much bullying and they're all on one social media site together. And I've seen even people I know who don't really use Twitter, who are big liberals, have posted on Facebook about how they're joining Blue Sky now.
Just don't do the performative goodbye. Just go.
So,
okay?
But it's fascinating because...
I'm leaving. That's right. You're losing me. Freaking go.
So I don't know like what the point is of just being on a site where everybody's all crying about the election together and all agrees with each other. Like what? And they just brigade their own side for like putting a toe out of line. Like what's the point of that?
The point is to have a one-act Rudolph. Where nothing gets hurt, nothing's bullied, and everything's fine.
But it's not a very interesting social media site to be on.
They don't want to be interesting. It's just the same thing as the point of the Biden White House was to do woke stuff. And the point wasn't the results. Just we did the woke thing. What do you mean? We left Afghanistan. Yeah, but they were falling off of the airplane. We left. What do you mean? It's historic.
So
we have to. We wanted to review the Sunday shows.
We do need to quickly talk about Kash Patel. I feel just briefly.
I think we have to do it we have Patreon, bro. We're 40 something.
Okay, so we'll talk about it more on the Patreon show. All the Sunday shows agree.
Yes.
He is a Trump loyalist.
Yes.
And he is a firebrand.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually, that's a great point, Alice, because that would have been the title of the podcast had we gotten to it.
Right.
But we're way too. There's a big chat, so we're way too late.
Okay.
So once again, Kash Patel is a loyalist and a firebrand. Look for those words during your search, although that may have to be something. Now, are you ready, Alice?
Isn't it funny how they all come up with the exact same words all the time?
I know. Well, that's it's something, and it's something the left is so good at because Chris Murphy used the same words, and Jonathan Karl used the same words, and Kristen Welker uses the same words, and Adam, the potato head guy, who said he had
Brian Stelter?
Adam.
Okay, but
Potato Head said that Trump met with Russians. Schiff.
oh,
Okay. Yes, it's interesting how they're all reading off the same. As a matter of fact, if you were really anti-establishment, in other words, an independent journalist, you would want to shake that off you. Like, I'm not going to talk like this guy in a suit from the
but
government.
don't you think the internet like incentivizes that because it gets like the words that are trending right now and ensures that you're in the words that are trending?
Oh, interesting. Oh, how lame is that?
So then, Patel loyalist is trending on Twitter, and if people click the trending topic, they'll see your article stuff. Because you used the words Patel, and so it's like this stupid, vicious cycle of clickbait.
Oh, I see. That would explain a lot for the last 8 years, actually, if that were true. The white supremacist insurrection. Like,
right.
Who thought of that? Like, where's the white supremacist insurrection? I mean, the white supremacists are in Montana right now. No, it's white supremacist insurrection. What do you mean? Very fine people. Okay, there's a lot of new names on here, Alice.
Okay.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, Steve.
Nice
return to the show, by the way. Went down to Watertown, made a nice showing.
Thought that the conversation about college tuition and if families should be saving for college or not was very interesting, very educational. But the one thing that I don't think was talked about enough, or maybe not at all, was the amount of money that colleges charge families each year. I mean, for families to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars each year for their child to get an education is 100% criminal.
Yeah.
And this is something that Elon and Vivek and, Marjorie Taylor Greene and whoever it is in Doge should be looking at, because if you look at Europe, for example, the cost of children getting an education there is probably 75 or 80% less than what students have to pay in the United States. I mean, it's just criminal, and the people who run these colleges should be jailed. I mean, there's just no need for families to go broke so that a child should get an education. And, I was fortunate enough that back in the 90s, I went to Salem State College, and, the cost to go to school there was very minimal. And I'm fortunate enough that I didn't have any debt when I left college.
That's great.
Don't have a lot of debt now except for my mortgage, because I didn't have to pay a lot of money to go to school.
It's a great school.
And now what you're asking these kids and these families are, if they can't get financial help or whatever, is that they may have debt right off the bat when they're in their 20s. I mean, that's just criminal. So hopefully, someone looks into the educational system, because it's a complete joke.
It is a joke, and we as taxpayers are causing it because we are funding it with government loans that inflate the cost of college enormously. Part of the difference in Europe, Steve, is that they don't let everyone go, which is part of why it doesn't cost as much.
In a lot of countries, they put you on your track early.
Right. Oh, yeah. They're like 14, and if you're going to plumbing high school, you're going to plumbing high school because you did not do well enough on the math test to go to the fancy high school. Like,
as a matter of fact, if my high school had made me do that, we'd be making a much better living right now.
Well, but that would be a big problem in the United States, because obviously there would be big inequities if we just tested everybody when they were 14 and stuck them on a certain track and said, sorry, you're not going to school for astrophysics because you can't do well enough on the test. You're not becoming a doctor or a lawyer because you didn't do well enough on the test. There would be a big immediate problem.
Oh, there would be, yeah.
So I do think on the other side we can talk more about like some of the things about college, especially because there was seemingly a pretty nice young woman who posted that she got her master's thesis, I think at Oxford, which isn't the United States, but still. And so now she's a doctor. And she's a doctor of literature, and her thesis is about olfactory responses in literature. So,
my name is Glenn Baker. How are you doing, ma'am?
Hey, Glenn.
I'm reaching out. My publicist is off for the weekend, enjoying her holiday. And
I think this is really Glenn Baker. It says Glenn at Glenn Baker.
Seems legit.
I wanted to see if you might want to chat with me. I just sent you an email with my press release. I'm a country music singer for the last 5 years after being off for 17 years.
So, Alice, I believe this is the first pitch we've received on the Burn Barrel chat. And he's talking to you, by the way. He said, ma'am.
Okay.
Several times. So we're going to listen to the rest of Glenn Baker's message, and you will be responding to Glenn Baker.
Okay.
And just created a documentary. I'm also a combat veteran.
Oh, wow.
And the documentary is entitled Finish This Fight, Diary of a Pissed Off American Soldier.
Huh.
I'm heading around the country to promote it, to get it out there using primarily podcasts and influencers. Mm-hmm. I've got an affiliate system as well. If that's something that you guys need, we'd be happy to share some.
Are you sure you know, Alice, what an affiliate system is?
Isn't that when you make money from selling stuff online?
It is? I didn't know. I don't know.
Okay.
What that means.
Some of that, and 50% of my profit is going to help put an exoskeleton on a paralyzed Iraq war veteran so he can walk again.
Oh, wow.
Just give you an idea who I am, man. I would love to chat with you. You want to respond to the email, I put my direct phone number in there. Hope you're having a great day, sir. Thanks.
This is literally the chat. This is literally the chat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I am impressed with Glenn Baker, and I think we should talk to him.
Okay.
I think we should have him on. He's not only sent you a pitch, but he's on the chat. He's just like layering it on. And he sounds interesting. Musician, vet. Here we go.
Okay.
And because it's the first pitch we've gotten on the chat. Oh, my goodness. That is great. That is great.
Hi, guys. This is Amy from Acton, living in Switzerland.
Hey, Amy.
And
Hey, Amy.
I was
It's been a while, Amy. We need Amy more often.
listening to your podcast about going to college or not. And maybe there's hope for America because here in Switzerland, about 7 years ago, while I was still working as a software tester in a pharma company, the head of the Department of Education from the United States came to visit and explore the Swiss system of education, which is totally different and focuses on setting kids on different tracks for the different types of interests they have that could potentially lead them to a job. So, for example, when my daughter, who was in 8th grade, and mind you, she was the youngest in her class at 13, which was last year, she got a whole book, which was basically all the different jobs you can learn in Switzerland. And now at the age of 14, she will be finishing school because they only have 9 obligatory school years. And she's going to start an apprenticeship to be a nurse. So she's going to be working at a retirement home and going to school a few days a week and doing actual practical experience in the nursing home, doing nursing tasks.
I am such a loser. My goodness. I need to go back and try this life again. Amy's daughter is 14 years old and
has more career skills than you.
Yes, and is obviously definitely a better person. Probably has a bigger net worth already. You really stepped in it, Alice, in your life too.
I love my life.
So you can learn.
No, I know, but picking me.
Everything, but honestly, I've never looked into that book and actually seen like the job direction for, philosopher or medieval art history teacher or whatever.
Yeah.
Although you can do an education to be a priest, which I thought was interesting. It's like kind of on the same level, but definitely maybe not as useless. But anyways, it's totally different here. And if America knows what's good for them, they'll follow the same experience because you can do a lot here and you start early and you can change directions. And I think that's a really good thing. Although Switzerland is more rigid and, I studied psychology with a history degree at Providence College and I ended up testing software. So that lateral change is less possible here, but nonetheless a good system. Thanks, guys. Love you. Bye.
We have a setup where we've decided.
Thank you, Amy.
That was a good call.
A great call.
And reaffirms kind of what I was saying to Steve from Gloucester, which is that we've made a decision that everybody should get to try to reach the highest levels. And that we shouldn't limit kids' choices earlier in life.
Right.
And
I would like to know
and
what
that's
kind of
harder.
presence and influence the public sector unions have over there.
Yeah, that's harder in Europe to like switch out, and they don't have like what we have, which is a bunch of mid-level private colleges for people to study liberal arts and gender studies and stuff for tens of thousands of dollars each year for no potential job prospect. Europe does not have that.
Yeah. No, that would be such a good way to cultivate a student. But once again, out of equity, you can't.
Oh, it would never fly in the United States. It would be about 3 seconds before people cried about it.
Right. Bureaucrats in the administrative state would start tweaking results to make everything look the way they want it to look, and they'd crush everything down to a nice, sucky level. All right, Alice, are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is Rudy.
Good evening, Tom, Alice.
Hey, Rudy.
I got to tell you, you hit a nerve. I want 7 of them. 7. I'm pre-ordering 7, but I request that they're wife beaters. They're tank tops, like undershirts. I want 7 and different colors, masculine colors though.
Yes.
Like black, green, gray. I want 7 MILF Hound wife beaters, extra large, 6'2", 220.
Alice?
Okay, I did not make wife beaters, but I can.
The wife beater crowd would love.
Okay, a MILF Hound shirt.
Yes.
That's true. That's a good point. Yep.
Yes.
All the MILF Hounds I know are wife
I
beater
need
guys.
7.
I should have
But
thought
I don't
of that.
wanna-
I'm sorry.
He wants 7. That means he's either giving them to 6 other friends or he needs one for every day.
Like pink or yellow.
No.
You know that neon yellowish green that construction workers
Yes.
wear?
Day glow.
That would work.
There you go.
That would work on a construction worker's reflection vest.
True.
Ooh.
If you could do all that, I am down for like 7 MILF Hound t-shirts.
Here we go.
I'm not like that bougie friend of yours from Canton,
Oh, correct.
but 7 of them.
We got to get that up, Alice, today.
Okay.
If possible.
Extra large.
Can you have that on my desk?
Yes, I can have that on your desk. Yes, boss.
Ooh.
I don't want t-shirts. I want wife beaters.
Wife beaters.
Okay.
And if
Will
there's a
do,
mustard
Rudy.
stain that pre-comes on it, like you already have it there,
Yes.
or a marinara sauce stain, that would be fantastic. You have a great day.
Thank you, Rudy. There you go, Alice. We're going to get that up. We will get that up today, Rudy. When I say we,
Hey, Tom.
Hey,
Just want
Steve.
to do a wellness check on you because it seems like you're taking on a lot of fire the past couple of days. Started with, Rudy in Florida calling and leaving you a message saying that you're soft and weak. Then you have Alice
Right.
questioning your profession,
correct.
kind of slamming you a bit. She
Correct.
also threatened to stab you at one point, which
That's not a one-off. I can assure you of that.
was very tough to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you and your brother and Steve from Merrimack are hanging out at a seedy bar full of undesirables. So, again, I'm just wondering what's going on
It's
there.
a great bar, Steve.
And then I hear you don't have a good Thanksgiving meal.
Alice overplayed that. She overplayed that. The stuff I made was good.
What's going on?
Excellent Thanksgiving.
No, my brother
meal.
made some good squash. That was good, too.
I made great stuff. The turkey was a huge hit. Everyone loved the turkey.
The family loves the turkey. The dogs like the turkey.
Is everything okay? I mean, I know there's a lot of fire being thrown your way, but I hope you know that I'm in your corner and I have a bucket of water ready to put out the fires for you if needed. So,
Thank you, Steve.
Keep the faith, Tom. It can only get better.
Thank you. I didn't even know that we got torn asunder on the Kirk Minahan show until today.
Yeah.
I knew that he did with Menners. He had a comment or two. But you know what? There's a lot of incoming. It is my burden to
I
bear.
don't know if Steve meant he's going to be on your side against Kirk, though.
He would never turn his back on us, Alice. Never. Charlie from Ipswich.
Hey, Tom and Alice.
Hey.
Just want to say you were talking about the college thing the last podcast.
Yeah.
When I was young, my mother sent me to a trade school. Well, she told me I should go to a trade school because I didn't like college. I didn't like school. There was no reason for me to go there. It was never going to work out for me. I worked on big projects, small projects when I first started out as a plumber. Now I work for myself for like the past 24 years or so.
We go.
And I've made a pretty decent life for myself.
Yes.
Paid.
I can hear the money, Alice. He's a moneyed person from working hard and having a skill.
Everyone we know who went to trade school is richer than us.
Yes.
For my wife to go to college, I am now paying for my daughter to go to college. My wife has a good job in the medical field. So it worked out for her. It worked out for me. There's two sides to every coin. But for me, if you're not a studious person and if you're going to take keg stands and basket weaving, there's really no reason to go to college. You can learn just as much out in the real world. Thanks.
Absolutely, Charlie. No, but 15 years ago, when I met Alice, I had an apartment in Alston or Brighton. Was it Brighton or Alston? Alston, we'll say. And my landlord was a guy from Russia, about my age, guy from the Soviet Union. And they put him on a track early to be a professional bodybuilder. And they had him up training for the Olympics, etc. And the only thing, after that went, sideways, the only thing for him to do was essentially find a hands-on labor job or an agrarian job somewhere out in cold Siberia. So he took option number 2, go to America, which obviously he did, and he got into the landlording business only in America, and he's doing very well. All right, ready, Alice?
My favorite thing about growing up in New Jersey. Hoboken, Trenton, and Newark, some of my favorite cities.
That's fantastic. That was Alice who said that, by the way. Hoboken.
No, I said Hoboken.
Hoboken. Hoboken. Okay,
I don't know how to say it. How do you say it? I still don't know. No one has told me now.
Nobody's going to tell you. Just say it as you've been saying it. I'll try to find a reason why we have to say it a lot.
Thank you so much for listening. I do want to talk more about stuff on the other side. We have our Patreon-only show, so if you're subscribed to Patreon, stay there. And we'll keep talking because we do want to talk about Kash Patel and other useless degrees and other things that are going on in the world. So stay there. If you like listening for free, of course, burnbarrelpodcast.com. There's links to Spotify and YouTube and all that.
C'est la vie.